But as I said to you before, there's much more to Steli than just close.io. He's just so passionate about what he does, and I just had to have him on here today. So Steli, thank you for being with us.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem, no problem. Steli, I want to explore more about, well, there's three areas I want to cover today. I want to obviously find out more about you while I've got you on the phone, or on Skype. I want to find out more. I want to help people to sell better. Like I said, whether you like it or not, every aspect of literally every job that you have is going to involve some aspect of sales, especially if you're in sales. And then thirdly, I want to find out as well about selling oneself, in terms of getting into a business. So Steli, tell us more about you and how you got to this point. You've been in the entrepreneur space since the age of 17, right?
Yes. So I'm originally from Greece. I grew up in Germany. Those are two very different cultures. Both places are in Europe. They could not be more different. And so I grew up in a factory worker family, single mom with three boys. And nobody in my family ever received a high education, and I was determined to keep that family tradition alive. I hated school with a passion, and I got very lucky, honestly, where one led to another, and I kind of stumbled over this thing called entrepreneurship. When I was 16, 17, I realized that to start a business, you didn't have to get a PhD or something, right? You didn't have to be academically successful. You just needed to work really hard, create value in the marketplace, and the ceiling of how big the business could be or how much you could accomplish was just determined by your creativity and your hard work versus somebody else's approval or other things. So once I realized that there was this how entrepreneurship worked, I was like, all right, this is it. This is going to be what I'm going to do with my life. And so I dropped out of school pretty young and started my entrepreneurial career. And honestly, like I've never had a real job in my life, right? I've always kind of started companies to employ myself. I always tell people I have zero credentials, so nobody could ever hire me for anything or would want to. And so, and if I had to pick a entrepreneurial quote unquote superpower, it was always selling. Although I didn't know it early on, right? I just had certain talents, and I had to use any of them and all of them to move my life forward and to try to make my businesses succeed. And one of those talents was that I was, somebody that loved other people, somebody that people trusted. And so I started becoming better at communication and what I call result-driven communication, which really is what the definition of sales is. It's communicating with an end goal in mind, trying to accomplish something, trying to get consensus, to get a decision, to get a conversion. And that's really what I've been doing almost all my professional life, is selling in one way or another to have people join my companies, to have people invest in my companies, to have people write about my companies, and to have people purchase the products and the services and the things that I offer in the marketplace. And so over time, I became better and better at it. I studied more about it. And then eventually I started teaching and sharing what I'd learned with the world. And today, I'm considered an expert and a thought leader in this space. But that's really how it started, was the desire to be my own boss, the desire to do something great without having to get approval and be successfully from an academic point of view. And then when I started my first business, I needed customers. So I started selling, right, without even knowing that I was doing that, because I don't know anybody who has grown up dreaming about becoming a salesperson, right? Like even me, honestly, Alex, when people started referring to me as sales expert, I resisted that, right? I resent that. I was like, wait a second, I'm a CEO, I'm an entrepreneur. I have so much more to offer than just being some sales dude. So I at first didn't like that tag. But eventually I got over myself, and I just, went back to saying, what is the way that I can create most value? And if sales is a topic that I can create a lot of value and people refer to me as an expert, who cares, right? It doesn't really, my ego is not really the main goal here. The main goal is to create value in the marketplace. So I've been selling my whole life and building sales teams, and, I've been teaching a lot of people how to do sales, and here I am.
So with you, I mean, it sounds like sales for you is innate, right? It's part of your DNA. Um, but for me, and probably for a lot of people out there, they probably don't really want to consider themselves as salespeople. This I don't know, some sort of dirty word attached to being a salesperson. I don't know why that is. Well, actually, I do know
There's,
why that is, because there are sleazy
yeah,
salespeople.
I think you do know why
Yeah,
that is.
I
Yeah,
know
and I
why
do
that
too.
is.
Yes.
So that I think that's why people don't necessarily want to sort of consider themselves sales or sort of admit that they need to do sales. But do you think sales is nature or nurture?